Thank you for coming. I hope it will be a fun and useful time for you, because I'm sure pretty much half of you is probably thinking about applying to the United States, and I think you should. And I hope that today's session will help you in answering lots of your questions. So I know that the ambassador has already mentioned some ideas of what the liberal arts concept is. But you know, since it's a very vague name, which usually has a lot of misunderstandings and confusion around it, I was wondering if maybe you could share me your thoughts. What do you think liberal arts education is? Anyone? So what do you think liberal arts education is? What is it about? Come on. Is it about liberal politics? Is it about liberals? You're giggling. I'm guessing you don't think so. Okay, well, we will discuss with Ms Barbara Marlow what liberal education is, but I'd like to share some basic myths about it. I think there are probably 5 of them. So first is that people who are criticizing liberal arts education say that, well, really, it lacks a specific major. You don't really get a real education. And I'd really say it's not true, because, I mean, I've graduated from liberal arts college. I do have a major, which is international studies. Friends of mine have graduated from sciences like engineering or chemistry, but what we share as in of liberal arts concept is that we have got a broad spectrum of skills like analytical writing, analytical thinking, critical thinking, and that's really the core which you can then apply to every field, really. Liberal arts learns you not what, but how and why. And then this how and why you can apply to literally every aspect or field that you will later on be connected to. I'd say that, well, that's kind of kicking into the second myth, that we lack of specific skills. And as I said, I don't think so. And especially at the time of crisis at the moment, if you look at the market, what companies want to hire, well, yes, they would probably hire bioengineers and computer scientists, but at the same time, they want people who are flexible, people who can adapt their skills to something specific what the companies want. And I think that liberal arts education is a great way of, you know, learning how to adapt. And as well as connecting to what His Excellency Ambassador mentioned about mobility, liberal arts gives you this kind of idea and habit of being mobile and flexible. You have your skills, you go to, I don't know, Indonesia, work there for 2 years, then you go to, God knows, I don't know, Borneo, and then to Switzerland, and that's all based on the core basic skills you've gathered from liberal arts. Again, a lot of liberal arts colleges in the USA, the people who critique it, say that it's extremely and ridiculously expensive. It's true. For example, my school, Middlebury College, is one of the most expensive colleges or universities in the States. It's cost $50,000 per year. But what they do not mention is that there is a great web of financial aid, scholarships, on-campus and off-campus job opportunities, which you can really take use of, like how I did. I didn't pay $50,000. I don't have that money. And still, I put myself through 4 years of schooling at one of the top schools in the, not only in the States, but in the world, really. Another myth about liberal arts colleges, I would say, is that people tend to think of it as a very elite, elite schools. And I would not agree here, too, because I think liberal arts colleges, they specifically, I think it's true about American education system in general, but liberal arts colleges specifically focus on diversity, how diverse student body is. That means not only age, social background, orientations, but also your nationalities. You, as an international student, bring in some experiences you can share with Americans, at the same time learning from their experiences. And the American student body there is not going to be just, you know, some specific social type of people. It's all over, like a really broad spectrum, which you can really benefit from. And I'd say that it's some say that, you know, liberal arts concept is very famous in the United States. There you don't really have to explain what it is. People kind of have the idea. And in Europe, people don't really know what it is. It sounds a bit foreign. But I'd like to stress that, you know, more and more European universities start adapting and using this concept successfully. For example, one of the top universities in Europe, University of Leiden, is a liberal arts college now, and they are using the liberal arts education system. So it's coming to Europe, and it's becoming more and more popular. So I think it's a great concept. I've personally will later on share my personal experiences with you. So before introducing Ms. Barbara Marlow, who will talk more about specifically about the philosophy behind liberal arts education, I'd like to tell you who she is really. She's Associate Director for International Admissions at Middlebury College, who happens to be the 5th top liberal arts college in America and my alma mater, which I'm proud of. And I think that we can kind of use Ms. Marlow not to only learn about liberal arts, but also, since she is the head of international admission, she is the person who reads our applications and decides who gets to go to school. So you can really ask her questions about how to write a perfect essay and get into that school. So, Ms. Marlow, do you hear us?
I can. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning from everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's quite early back in Vermont.
It's a beautiful morning, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So I was wondering maybe if you could share first like your kind of general idea and explain more in details. So what is liberal arts education? Where this concept is coming from? What are its benefits, practices?
Okay, I'd be happy to talk about that. You can hear me fine?
Yes, we hear you perfectly.
Okay, good. Great, thank you. There's been a lot of discussion, particularly in the United States right now, thinking about the cost of education, which is expensive in the United States, although there's a lot of assistance to help students pay for that education. But if you're going to spend so much on your education, what is a proper, appropriate, most useful kind of education for the future? And one of the things that's been discussed is that liberal arts as a concept has been around for a long time in the U.S. And is this an outmoded way of thinking? Should students be focusing directly on their career, their vocation, their profession, and just get to that quickly? What is the role of the liberal arts in modern society and in the 21st century looking forward? And so I work for a liberal arts school, but we believe strongly that it's more relevant than ever before. For a number of different reasons. One is it's actually very forward-thinking. It sounds luxurious, but people from around the world look to come to the United States because the ability to study broadly as well as deeply has been shown to lead to creative solutions to problems. The people around the world look to the United States for solutions to problems, and this form of higher education in the United States can contribute positively to developing in people the ability to put their heads together, draw from many different resources, many different strengths and talents and backgrounds, and put all that together to arrive at a creative and hopefully beautiful solution to some of the problems facing us now and in the future. There's a man philosopher, who I'm going to paraphrase. His name's James Conant, and his thought is that anyone's real education is not what all the facts and figures and things that you've learned. It's actually what remains after you've forgotten everything you've learned. It's really your approach to learning, your approach to life, your approach to the unknown, the ability to be unafraid of what you don't know, and to have the tools to approach it, to ask important questions, to think critically and deeply about those questions, to synthesize information from many different resources, to be able to evaluate those resources for how reliable they are, what kind of resources they are, to come up with a solution, test it, and back it up. and be able to really use all those materials to make everyone see why your solution is a real solution, and then communicate it with the spoken and written word. And that's very relevant to anything people do, whether you become an engineer and need to explain why you arrived at a particular solution to a problem, or the medical world, or anything else that students choose to pursue as a career. Those communicative skills, the critical thinking skills, and the ability to think creatively are going to be more important than ever. Alvin Toffler, who's a futurist and writer, said that the world is going to redefine illiteracy. It will no longer be defined by those who can not read or write, and instead it'll be defined by those who cannot learn, relearn, and relearn again. That it is really important to have the flexible thinking skills. It's also said, in the past they said that students, probably in your year of graduation, Lena, is that in your working lifetime you will probably either change jobs or see substantial changes to what you do 5 or 6 times in your working lifetime. It's the impact of technology, of global influences on all of us, and they just last month moved that up to 10 times. Those who are now students can expect to see pretty dramatic changes in what they do, probably 10 times in their working lifetime. You need flexible thinking skills. You need the critical skills to evaluate and not just accept at face value what you're told or what you see, but to really think about it and to offer new solutions. We believe that liberal arts colleges and liberal arts programs are an important part of that process. And you can find the liberal arts in many different locations. I do work for a wonderful liberal arts college, and I'll talk a little bit in a moment about liberal arts colleges, but in the United States, and I'll be specific to the United States, there are different kinds of post-secondary education. There are vocational programs and technical programs. There are community colleges, which are 2-year colleges typically, where students earn an associate's degree and then move on to another school for their bachelor's degree. There are universities, some of which are public and some of which are private. And a university is a structure. It's not a quality of education, it's a structure of education that typically involves many colleges. There may be a College of Arts and Sciences, which would be their liberal arts college, and then there may be a College of Engineering, a College of Nursing, business school. You might be able to get a business degree as part of your bachelor's degree. And so those offer specialized programs as well as liberal arts programs in both public and private universities. And some of the best universities in the U.S. have as their entire first degree or a bachelor's degree program, everybody goes through a liberal arts program. And that university also consists of graduate and professional programs, master's and PhD programs, engineering, architecture, business, medicine, medical degrees, veterinary medicine, and other professional degrees that one achieves after achieving the bachelor's degree. And they actually ask all of their students to be first in a liberal arts program and specialize after that. So I think a lot of people think that one reason for thinking about liberal arts is so that you can postpone a decision about what you're going to do, change your mind many times once you've enrolled, and all of that is true, and that's really pertinent to a lot of students because not everybody knows exactly what they want to do, and what you wind up doing may not exist today. So even if you think you know what you want to do, your eye may be caught by something that no one's yet doing. It wasn't that long ago that there was no such thing as website design. My son-in-law went to school. He went to a very fine school. There was no such thing as website design when he went to school, and yet that's what he's doing now. And he's just an application for iPhones. And there was no training for doing that when he was in school. And he had a liberal arts background, and he's taken that ability to learn whatever it is he needs to learn, and he's applied that to his own job and his own working lifetime. But that didn't exist when he was in school. So you want to build the skills that allow you to feel confident about doing that sort of thing, about reaching out and grabbing onto what's new, taking intellectual risks, and feeling confident. And so this kind of education builds that confidence. You'll be asked not just to replicate other people's thinking, but to define your own and to share it with others. And you'll be required to do a capstone or senior project that could be a thesis or research project, but you're going to be asked to determine something that you want to learn more about that's your own idea, develop a thesis, back it up, also defend it to a group of faculty, and then put it in writing. And those theses wind up in our library for use by future students. So that's a wonderful opportunity. And then once you've accomplished something like that, it's a big project. We don't admit students who are all ready to do that. That's part of the learning process to prepare you for that during your 4 years. But once you leave and you've accomplished a project like that, you will have tremendous confidence about your ability to tackle the unknown. The third kind of school in the U.S. is a liberal arts college, and liberal arts colleges are like the College of Arts and Sciences within a university, essentially. So you don't have to go to a liberal arts college to achieve a liberal arts education, but those who choose liberal arts colleges do it for the following reasons. Middlebury, where I work, has some graduate programs, so it's not a total absence of graduate programs, but the graduate programs never coincide with our undergraduate programs on this campus, so that when students come to Middlebury to study for their bachelor's degree, they are taught only by faculty hired to teach. There are no graduate students teaching or correcting their papers. And all of our faculty do research in the social sciences, in the arts and humanities, and in the natural sciences and mathematics, computer science. And when they do all of that research, they look for research partners. The absence of graduate students on our campus means that all those research opportunities go to our undergraduate students. So it's not that we have no graduate programs whatsoever, it's that they never coincide with our undergraduate program on this campus. And that pretty much defines what a liberal arts and sciences college is, or a liberal arts college, is they have very few or no graduate programs, or if they have them, they're not in competition for resources and faculty time with graduate programs. Those graduate programs exist either in different places or at different times. So the benefit to students is to have full access to all the facilities of the school, the libraries, the laboratories, the professors' time. Everything at this college exists, and in liberal arts colleges exists, to develop that first degree or that bachelor's degree experience. Asking students to study both broadly and deeply. Each school can set up their own criteria. We have distribution requirements and a requirement for a major. Other schools organize it differently. But they all are based on the same concept, that studying in many different disciplines allows each one to shine a light on the others, and for all of that to broaden your thinking, so that if you're looking at an environmental problem, you've got those who are scientists and those who are social scientists who focus on economics or policy studies, those who are great with words and have been studying literature and writing and applying that to environmental issues, and those who've been studying biology, chemistry, geology, in various fields and combined that with a lot of computer knowledge, and then all of them work to put their heads together to find solutions to problems. It's happened in many ways on our campus, which later on I'll talk a little bit about Middlebury, but we can directly see the applications to that kind of diversity of thought on our campus, and Our students are activists, and so in their spare time, they're trying to solve environmental problems and other kinds of problems, and they bring a coalition of students from all different backgrounds, and by that I mean cultural and geographic, as well as diversity of majors and interests and talents. And everybody contributes their thoughts to that, and then they come up with a solution. And we have evidence that we've come up with great solutions to a number of different problems by using that model. I'm going to just read a couple of quotes for a few minutes, but I want to say that most liberal arts colleges have a small student-faculty ratio. There's a lot of professors' time given over to students, and so the student-faculty ratio may be 8 to 1, 10 to 1, 15 to 1. There are that many faculty resources available to students, and faculty have chosen to teach in liberal arts programs because they have decided professionally that they want to be part of the bachelor's degree or that stage of educational development in students' lives. So it isn't that they wish they were working with graduate students. They've made an absolute choice to work with those students who are working for 4 years toward their bachelor's degree. It's highly interactive. They say that they learn from their students every day, and classes are not very often in the model that I see you all in, where you are all sitting and facing a professor who may talk to you for an hour, and you take notes and then you feed back what you learned on a test. It tends to be students sitting around a table, facing each other, everybody in the class participating, and everybody learning from each other. And that's where Helena referred to the diversity of the student body. That's where that's important to us, that we have students from all different socioeconomic, cultural, religious, geographic, national, any way you want to think about human difference, that those be represented in those classrooms. So when something's being discussed, you have many different schools of thought and many different background experiences shining a light on it. Not everybody's going to agree, and through that disagreement, everybody learns more, including our faculty. There'll be a lot of writing required of students on campuses like ours because our faculty do not teach a lot of students, and they have a lot of time to work with students on their writing. And writing is one way of developing your thoughts and having a chance to write and rewrite again. And during that process, you're refining your own thought process. And in active discussion-based classes, you are going to venture an opinion and listen to others challenge it. They may try to shoot it down. You may be asked to defend it. You have the opportunity to challenge the thoughts of professors, and they will be doing the same thing. And that's a very exciting educational process for everybody involved. It's not static. It is very active. And so students who are a good match for a liberal arts program are those who love to get involved in an active discussion and want to voice an opinion and are willing to have their mind changed. We look for students who are willing to have their minds changed, and because that's an exciting process too, to see that light go on and somebody say, wow, I never thought of it that way. And all of that is part of your education. It's not just learning formulas or approaches to a mathematical problem or how to analyze a piece of literature, but also how to really wrap your head around something that you've never really considered before, and how to bring that into your own thinking and allow it to reshape things in a way that's still true to you, but probably represents a broader perspective. We want you to study what you love, and when I say we, I mean in liberal arts programs, either in universities or at liberal arts colleges. Generally, you're encouraged to study something that you love and allow the school to help you develop that program and apply it to whatever you want to do as a career, and to help you develop your career thoughts as you go along. You don't have to know that when you come in. You may change your mind about that many times, as well as change your major many times. Often students take a class that fits their schedule, and they've heard the professor's good, or it sounds intriguing, never had the opportunity to take a class in that before, and it opens a new door, and suddenly you've got a double major, or you're majoring in something that you had never really considered as an interest of yours before. You discovered an interest that you didn't know that you had. You may still go to medical school, law school, business school, engineering, architectural school, but you will approach that from a different pathway than you ever had foreseen for yourself. We want students to immerse themselves in their education and thoroughly enjoy it, and that's the process of studying something that you find that you love. I'm going to quote a Middlebury professor who says, it was just in the campus newspaper last week, "A good liberal arts education produces critically engaged citizens. In other words, it's people who can get education, analyze it, and think about it. Civically engaged citizens, students of the liberal arts, are then very often moved to action." Graduates of liberal arts programs tend not to be those who just sit and nod their heads and agree with others, and they tend to be, emerge as community leaders, whether it's on the school committee at a school, parents committee at a school, to a local leader, to somebody who gets involved at the state level or at the national level. And there are graduates of liberal arts colleges who are ambassadors, who run some of the world's largest businesses, who didn't have a business education until they went to graduate school. And they could have been theater majors or philosophy majors or environmental studies majors as their undergraduate background. And as they developed their personality and the type of things that engage them, they also developed their professional sort of pedigree and took that wherever they wanted to go. A student at Middlebury wrote something that he's an international student. I was going to be visiting his school, and I asked if he would write something. And it's boring to listen to people read things, so I'm not going to read too much. But his take on it, and he's a senior at Middlebury this year, came to us from Asia, and where there is really not much opportunity for this kind of education. And he said it's an educational system that emphasizes undergraduate study in both arts and sciences. You can't pick just one or the other typically. You must engage both sides of your brain. You're given more flexibility and more opportunities to explore your interests in various fields, from one end of the spectrum, from the arts through the natural sciences, social sciences, literature, and humanities, languages. He said, I'll give myself as an example. I'm a biochemistry major, but I have just found that I love politics, international politics, and I'm studying Japanese, which I never thought I would take. I take these non-science classes to enrich my knowledge of the world and feel more engaged in other cultures and what's going on in the world, because when I pick up the New York Times or a magazine, I realize that I refer back to my knowledge from all of these classes that I took. My communication skills have been vastly improved, and I'm going to be a scientist who can explain and effectively illustrate my great discoveries to the world. And that's what the scientific community around the world really needs. I won't go on and read more of it. He just said that he took a physics class. He had never loved physics. He took a physics class, and the professor was so engaging that he took another one and practically switched his major from biochem to physics as a result. We love it when students have their minds changed about things. Liberal arts, when you work with professors who are the best at what they do, you're going to have your mind changed. You may have your world rocked. You may fall in love with something that you never thought you would, whether it's an idea or it's a whole different major. And we think we classify that as success. You'll have the opportunity to work closely with faculty. They have office hours, and they hope students will walk in the door. Some of them will hold their office hours in public places, a grill, a student coffee shop, and hope that students will come and sit down with them. Students in liberal arts colleges, if they're having a problem in a class, typically will go right to the professor and say, you know, I'm having a problem with this. Can you have some help? And that's why professors teach in schools like this. There's wonderful advising and mentoring, the ability to get to know them and ask them, why did you choose what you chose? If this is my major, where are some of the places I can take it? What are some of the great graduate programs in this field? What can I do with this field? What kinds of things might interest me? And they will know you well enough to write letters of recommendation that are meaningful to people like me on the other end. When we receive letters of recommendation, we hope that they come alive with anecdotes, with things that are really directly related to the student who is being written about. And if people who teach you get to know you well enough to do that for you, that expands your possibilities as you look to continue your education after your bachelor's degree. It really will enhance your educational opportunities moving forward, or your career opportunities, because they'll be able to speak to your particular strengths and to the things that you did in their classroom or laboratory. Liberal arts colleges, they say that when they look at those who major in scientific fields, astrophysics, biochemistry, molecular biology, biomedical engineering, there are more students coming from liberal arts and sciences colleges than any other kind of education in those graduate schools in the USA. So the idea that you have to go to a university and study physics specifically in order to have an opportunity to go to graduate school in physics is actually not true. That you could study physics in a liberal arts and sciences school a program at a university or a liberal arts college, but the number of students who pursue the sciences at the graduate level, overwhelmingly, nearly 2/3 come from liberal arts and sciences colleges or the College of Arts and Sciences in universities. Liberal arts schools can be expensive because we can't defray our costs by asking some of our students to teach others of our students. In other words, we can't use graduate students to teach classes, and that means that the bottom line, the price tag is higher because we have to pay that many more faculty members to be in touch with students. But sometimes the most expensive schools also have the most financial assistance to give to students. So if you shouldn't be scared off by just the price tag. If you are concerned about the cost of education and you want to study in the United States, by all means apply to a number of different kinds of schools. Think about schools that are less expensive as well as those that are more expensive. Realize that public universities, by public, that means those are universities that receive a substantial amount of their funding from the state in which they exist. So the University of Michigan is funded partially by the taxpayers of the state of Michigan, and they may have some rules. I don't know what Michigan's rules are, but they may have some rules about the kind of financial aid that they can give to international students. Some states have no such rules. Some states do, so you'll have to explore that. There are also private universities that will not be bound by such rules because they exist privately rather than receiving state funding or funding from the residents of that state. Most liberal arts colleges are private institutions, and so while we're expensive, we also write our own rules about how we expend our funds, and we don't receive any money from the state of Vermont unless it's some kind of a research grant to study our lakes and rivers and mountains or something environmentally or in some other way. But for the most part, we are privately funded by graduates of the institution, those who choose to make donations here, certainly those who pay tuition to study here. But we do have extensive financial aid available to students. So don't pick just by the price tag. Do look at schools' financial aid policies, and many will have merit scholarships. If you have a particular talent, academic, musical, athletic, or any other kind of talent, there are schools out there that may give you extra funding in order to bring your talent to their campus, and so that's something else that you can look for. You probably should look at cities and schools that are not in cities. They have very different environments, and they offer different strengths, large and small, public and private. So let me stop there, I guess, for a minute. And you want me to talk specifically about Middlebury for a minute, Jelena?
Well, I think...
And would that be at this time or not?
Well, I think that maybe we'll wait and take maybe a couple of questions and then talk specifically about Middlebury. And I just wanted to thank you for such a thorough recap of American education in general and liberal arts college. And I'm sure we have a lot of questions, so go ahead.
Because liberal arts colleges spend so much time thinking about the composition of the student body, not just what are their intellectual strengths, but what will they bring personally. Because in order to bring all that diversity and all that willingness to speak up and challenge views and have your views challenged, it's important to make sure you bring to your campus students who actually have those traits or enjoy that kind of education. And so I want to make sure that students understand that unlike most of the rest of the world, where an application for admission is primarily a school leaving examination, the score you get on some kind of national or matriculation exam that determines where you can go, what you can study, if you can go. Instead, schools like Middlebury, liberal arts colleges, and universities in the U.S. ask for a lot of information from students. And the reason for that is so that we can bring those personal attributes as well as those intellectual strengths to our campus. And I just felt like that probably needed to be said to sort of complete the whole picture. Yes. Thanks, and sorry for the interruption.
No, thank you. No, thank you for the information. So, any questions? Now, really general, any questions you would like to ask? Said, maybe if you could list 3 main reasons why to go to a liberal arts school. Not just to, just why liberal arts? Just 3 main reasons.
You'll learn to think critically if you already are not practiced in thinking that way and to solve problems. It'll allow you to embrace a personal challenge, because for students for whom this has not been the pattern of their education, it'll be totally different. And to embrace that challenge sets you up to embrace challenges for the rest of your life, and that's a great thing. And allows you to be a citizen of a larger community. When you go to a school that is not, when you enter a college or university outside your home country, you are now in a very different kind of community from what you're used to. And that asks a lot of you, but also allows you to develop yourself in totally different ways. It develops how you hear problems, how you hear other people's thoughts, how you digest them, and how you respond to them. And this globe is absolutely shrinking. That we need more people who are practiced in that. So thinking about whatever kind of school, attending school in another part of the world, the United States or elsewhere, is going to help you develop those skills, and those are going to be important for us to all get along in the future.
Thank you. And so, so just to make sure, any questions for now, or you can, yes, please go ahead.
Sad that nobody's. After I finished liberal arts, I don't know how it's called, university, college, something like that.
Either way, yeah.
Yeah, either way. If I come back, for example, to Latvia, can I apply for graduate programs already around here? Is the liberal arts diploma that I receive in the end valid here? Or is it only valid in America, in the U.S.? Yeah.
It certainly is valid. Should I answer?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Because I can't speak specifically to Latvia. I can say that we had applications from 122 different nations last year, and we have students here currently from, I think, 80 nations, some of whom will not return to their home country until they've completed a graduate program. So for some, in order to take this U.S. education and liberal arts education back to their home country and put it to use in a career, they will have first continued their education at the graduate level. For some, they will do that in their home country or a third country, and for some, they will do that in the United States. But probably 80% of Middlebury graduates, and I think this is true of liberal arts colleges, will continue their education to the master's or in a professional degree within 5 years of graduating, not necessarily immediately. And that's more because students don't always know exactly what they want to do. They think they may want business. They may go into a training program in New York City with Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley. They may think they want law and do basically an internship. It could be a paid job as some sort of paralegal in a legal firm and try it out. There are also internship opportunities while you're in school. But I think that whether you how that will translate directly into Latvia is something to ask the Fulbright Commission there, something to ask universities. You'll have better resources than me to determine that, because I'm not certain how it works all around the world. I do know we have students from all continents other than the polar regions on our campus who do return to their home countries and have productive careers, and in a variety of fields.
Well, as a person who held a Middlebury College degree, which is a liberal college degree, I can tell you that it is valid everywhere. So basically, just the term, like, just because it sounds somewhat different than from university, yes, your degree is valid for you to later on apply to either master's or PhD or whatever next degree you wish in pretty much everywhere. So, unless there's a specific country that has some specific rules or requirements, I would not think there should be any problem with that. But thank you for your question. It's a very good one. Are there any other questions? Any other questions? Yes, please go ahead. Did you press the button? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Grades are not always taken into account when you're applying. For example, if you do a year of voluntary work, I don't know, in Uzbekistan, I don't know, I really don't know, but yeah, and that is worth more than your grades. Is that true? Do you understand?
Barbara, did you get the question?
Are you talking about taking a gap year and how that might...
No. The person asked that she has heard that, when applying for school, the grades from schools are not the most important factor when deciding whether to take this person in or not. That, for example, taking some time in volunteering somewhere or doing some projects may be counting more and will play a more important role in decision than your school degrees. Am I paraphrasing you correctly? So is that true or not?
Well, I would say, I suppose that's in some way technically true, but not in the spirit of it. And let me explain. Very good schools are looking for very good students. And there's a lot of self-selection that takes place in the application process. So most of our applicants have been very good students because they know that's what it takes in order to be admitted. I'm going to speak now for Middlebury because I only work here. Smaller schools have the luxury of spending a lot of time with each application and getting to know each student academically or intellectually as well as personally, and admitting the whole person holistically to their campus. Very large schools may have very large numbers of applications, and if they're public universities, they may be told they must take a certain percentage of each entering class as residents of that state. And they may make a statistical decision. In other words, the statistics get entered into the computer, come up with an index, and they can cut it off at a certain point, and they may only address a small portion of the class in this more personal way. So this is not the way every school every college or university in the U.S. is able to make their decisions. Probably everybody would like to, but sometimes sheer numbers or state rules or laws that are applied to that university may make them go about it differently. In liberal arts colleges, and liberal arts and very, very good universities, public or private in the U.S., the staff will spend a lot of time getting to know each student that they're going to admit. So they're going to look at the very good student. So the first thing is you have to get through that door or over that hurdle. You have to appear to us or convince us that you are somebody who's capable of not just getting through Middlebury, but of really thriving, of being able to there's an enormous array of opportunity here. That would be no fun, and it would be not beneficial to anyone if we didn't admit students who have the capability to reach out and try new things and the engagement and curiosity to do that. So we look at the students who have the academic credentials to thrive here, not just get through, and then among those students, which is a large portion of our applicant pool, we look for the people we are engaged with most personally, or that we can see on campus. Essentially, your application allows us to get a view of you into the future on our campus. And we think of you as somebody's roommate. We're a residential school, Everybody lives in some form of college housing, and you're guaranteed housing all 4 years. You may or may not have a roommate. Chances are you will. We want everybody to have a wonderful roommate. So we're going to think of you. How do you engage your community? How are you involved in your community, your high school? Do you think of people, others as well as yourself, or you really does your world stop at the end of your nose, or do you do things that benefit other people? If so, that probably makes you a considerate roommate. Do you have independent thoughts? Do you think critically? Are you an engaged student? Are you excited about learning? Does the world, the intellectual world, excite you in any way? If so, then you're probably going to be one of those students the faculty will thank us for putting in their classes because you share your ideas. We're looking for that kind of attribute. And then the larger community, we're not in a city. And this is a very interesting, fun, exciting campus. The students call it FOMO, F-O-M-O, fear of missing out. There's so much going on all the time. One of the big regrets is that there are always things students want to do that coincide with something else they want to do, and they are frustrated that they can't do it all. It's definitely not a boring place, but the reason for that is because we've admitted such interesting people. So our process is to read each application twice. And which is the process we're in right now with early decision applications. When we read an application, we look for a student's intellectual capability, the preparedness from your high school education that you would bring to Middlebury, and the promise or the kind of student you are, whether we see that as a good match for what's here. And if that's so, then we consider all those other personal things. And each application's read by 2 different people considering all those different factors. And then we sit around a table, and we had roughly 9,000 applications last year. We sat around a table and talked about every single one of those students. And when we talk, we don't get all excited about, Sam. I'll just pick a name. Isn't Sam wonderful? What a wonderful human being. I can't wait to bring him to this campus. Look at that SAT score. Doesn't that make him a wonderful person? I mean, that's not a conversation we're ever going to have. Those are numbers, and those help us determine who could be successful here. But among the successful students, we wind up talking about this student volunteered, this student's a wonderful artist, this student dances beautifully, this student has given a lot to the community, this student writes for the newspaper, somebody involved in student government. It's really the ways you engage your school and community in ways that are right for you, and there's no one right way. So it isn't that we value service more than student government or writing for the newspaper more than playing a sport. They're sort of all equal in our mind. But what we're looking for is, who are you as a person? Are you an interesting person? Will this community benefit? Because ultimately we're building a community student by student. Each class is like a big puzzle, a big jigsaw puzzle, and we put those pieces in the puzzle. You must do jigsaw puzzles. You put each one in, one at a time, and no puzzle piece is like any of the others. No one person in the class is a replica of anyone else. And so in the application, we're looking for, who are you? So you're correct in that if you say that we spend more time talking about your personal attributes and what you do, not just in chemistry class, but in the rest of your life. But in order to get to the table to be having that discussion, you need to first have proven to us that you could be a successful student here. Because it's more harmful to bring somebody here who doesn't succeed. It's more harmful to that person. It doesn't hurt Middlebury, but it's really tough for a student to not succeed. And so we want to make sure we only bring students here who we believe will be academically successful, and then we talk about all the wonderful ways that they'll contribute to this community. It's a really good question. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. I think we'll stop with questions for the moment, and maybe we'll use 5 minutes, say, for you to maybe talk more about Middlebury. What is Middlebury about? After all, you are Associate Director for Admissions for Middlebury College, and it is one of the 5th top liberal arts college in the United States, so I think that's important that we talk about that too. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Roughly 5 minutes?
Yes, maybe 10.
Okay.
if you want to.
Okay, well, I'll try to keep it short. It's really hard. First of all, I would encourage anyone who's interested in any school. There's so much information available to you now through school websites, and that's a great place to go. Speaking personally of Middlebury, I would say talk to somebody who's either been there, has been a student there, you have someone before you, but at any school, or try to engage the current student body. If you have an interest, you can, if you have an academic interest, you can usually go into a course catalog, find out who is the department chair or somebody in that department, and you can write the professor and ask a question. If you never hear from them, maybe that will tell you something. They also may be very busy or on leave, so you have to be careful what you deduce from that. Go to the admissions websites. On our website, we have something called Ask a Mid Kid, and that is answered. You can pose a question just as you've been posing questions to me. Ask them what it's like to be there. What's the weekend like? And get student answers to things. This is a very dynamic, vibrant, energetic, wonderful group, community of faculty, staff, and students who've come from vastly different backgrounds and form a community that works really well together, that challenges each other, supports each other, creates opportunity for everyone else. And you know, I think it's a matching process. It's what's right for you, and the more information you get, the better you'll be able to determine whether that school is right for you. You can sign up for information. At Middlebury, it started as a student project. When I talk about things that happened because of the energy of our students went to first the president of the college. He has open office hours every week. You don't need an appointment. You can go in and talk to him. And they went in and took their 15 minutes and said, we think Middlebury should become carbon neutral. The amount of carbon in the atmosphere around the world is a huge problem affecting climate change. We think it's time Middlebury does their part, and we would like to move toward carbon neutrality. He asked for time. The president agreed this is important. They asked for time with the board of trustees. They were given that, and the board adopted a policy of becoming carbon neutral by the year 2016, or by the end of the year 2016. That was student initiative. That's the kind of student we want to bring here, and that's the kind of community we have. Their first step then was to help design a biomass plant, basically a big furnace that burns wood chips instead of oil. And we have lots of wood in the state of Vermont. So the college owns many forests and has a forester, and they have to thin the woods so that there aren't forest fires and things. They're using that wood, chipping it, and feeding it to this plant, which gives heat and hot water to the rest of the campus. That was a student initiative. It was built in the state of Vermont. That helps the economy of the state of Vermont. It's being replicated elsewhere. The next concern was, so now we can't pull down all the forests to feed this plant. What can we do to make it self-sustaining? And they're using local farmlands to plant fast-growing willows, and testing those willows, letting them grow for a certain number of years, chipping them, and seeing if they get the same energy out of willows that they were getting out of the hardwood in mature trees in the forest. As this plant went online, it cut almost in half the amount of fuel oil Middlebury brings from other parts of the world, trucks here, and burns, which puts carbon in the air. The trucking it, delivering the oil here also contaminates the air. And there are all the geopolitical issues of oil and fossil fuels. So that all came out of student energy. That's I'm using it to characterize the kind of place this is. Some of those students were environmental studies students. Some just have a passion or a care for the world that they and their children are going to inhabit and want to do something for it. It's one of many projects on this campus. There's enormous energy here. One of the concerns in the United States is that this process of applying to colleges has so consumed students and so caused anxiety that they're playing it very safe now. They begin building their resume very early in life, the resume they're going to send to us. And we are hearing from 8 and 10-year-olds that they want to know what they should take so that they can come to a college like ours or to come to Middlebury. I want to say, go out and play, go learn who you are, be yourself, develop yourself. This concern has caused our president to develop a whole new office and place on campus called the Center for Innovation and Creativity. And there's a space in the town of Middlebury, a building that the college now owns, that is used entirely for student creative projects that are not for a class. Students are writing poetry, and then there's a performance space in town that the college owns as well. So there's at least one night a month for slam poetry, and the students who are writing poetry are performing it. Students are making architectural drawings, writing novels, organizing community suppers, painting, drawing, whatever it is that's creative that they have found that they love to do and maybe lacked space. It's space that students can sign up for that is theirs to use for a creative project that is not for a class. The Center for Social Entrepreneurship grew out of that same project. So we have students who are starting educational programs in Africa. Social engineering is basically thinking of what will improve the lives of others in some way, in some place. And that office has funds to give to students for those projects. So we have students initiating projects all over Vermont, all around the United States, and all around the world that benefits somebody else. They're doing this in their spare time, but that's grown out of the project on innovation and creativity. So what I want to say about Middlebury, you can go to our website, you can sign up for information, and what you'll get is emailed. We no longer mail paper to you, part of trying to be carbon neutral. But there's now a Middlebury Admissions Facebook page. The students who work in our office, and the students have campus jobs all over campus. Some of them work in the admissions office. They answer those Ask a Mid-Kid questions, and they have designed a Middlebury Admissions Facebook page. It's a Facebook page particularly focused on students who are looking at Middlebury as prospective students. What kind of information do you need? It's everything from what's going on campus to more photos of the campus. They answer questions. They are profiling the various members of our admissions staff. So you can get to know us a little bit. We're real people. We're parents, former teachers. We like you. We like students. We've chosen to do this work because we believe that it is important, and we love getting to know students through their applications and those we're able to meet. So there are a lot of ways for you to get information, but I think what you'll see from our website is a project on narrative journalism, students who are interviewing and taping other students and putting those interviews on our website. So some of them are called How Did You Get Here? Others are different kinds of interviews, but there are a lot of ways of getting to know a school. All you need is time, and I know that everybody feels there's a shortage of that. But as you get interested in schools, explore their websites, try to be in touch with students, look at the things that interest you. There's an enormous amount of information out there, more about just Middlebury than any of you would have time to look at, let alone the other 3,500 colleges and universities in this country. So, it does take a little homework for you to try to find your right match. Use Education USA and the Fulbright Center. They are informed and helpful and can also help you find ways to get to know schools. Most schools have alumni living around the world. There may be other Middlebury graduates in addition to Elena who would be a resource for you, and current students, and there are ways of getting in touch of all of them. So I guess what I would say about Middlebury is this is a very dynamic, people who can visit campus, and you live a long ways away, that may or may not be open to you, but students who come continually remark on the fact that there is a pulse to this school, that when you walk around you see happy, engaged people who seem to be doing things that interest them. Nobody looks bored, even though we're not in a city, and everybody seems to have something to say about what they're doing, and genuine and authentic excitement about it. And if you ask how to find a place on campus, they're apt to smile and say, well, I'm going that way, I'll walk you over, or let me make sure I get you there, and answer any questions you have. And so if you're looking for that kind of community, Middlebury is a superlative school, but it's also a superlative community. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Barbara. And as a fellow Mid-Kid, I just wanted to add that Middlebury is also the kind of school that Bill Clinton and the Dalai Lama visited recently in recent years, so that's something to think about. And thank you for such a great talk, and I think we can take maybe 2 last questions from our audience. Anyone? Yes, please, go ahead. Just say your name and what you're doing at the moment before you...
My question is, how do you acquire critical/analytical skills? Like, are they like separate classes, or are they included, for example, like in a math class? Thank you.
Sure. In a math class, you're not going to be expected to find one solution to a problem. The professor is going to work with students to find many solutions to a problem. You know, there's not usually, there may be a right answer, but there may be many solutions, many ways of getting there. I think the difference is most of our classes are small and engaging. Very few, we have many more classes of 1 than 100, and I don't know if we actually have any classes of 100. Very seldom will you wind up in a lecture class where you spend your time listening, writing down good notes, doing the reading, and then going and taking a test where you basically tell the professor what the professor told you. If you do that, the professor's going to be dissatisfied, and you're going to be unhappy because it's not going to be a good result. What they're going to expect is that you take the knowledge from a lecture or from a class discussion. Go do some extra reading. Do some reading that's not required. Explore it in your own way and come up with something that's yours, that you put on a test or you bring back to class discussion. It's really asking you to expand your thinking beyond what was presented and put your own slant on it and do some research, interview some people, whatever it might be, but find a way to extend what you're learning into some new realm, test it, own it, and communicate it. It's really being dissatisfied with just learning what you're told, and instead being asked to take that further. I don't know, you know, maybe I was not a Middlebury student, and my student years were so long ago. It's a little harder for me to remember how all those things are developed, but it's basically faculty expecting your thinking and expecting you to not accept just what you're told, but become a thinking individual who goes beyond that. We develop it in a number of ways. At the beginning level, you're going to come, if you've never had a political science class or an art history class, your first class in that department is going to probably be an introductory course, and you're going to be given a lot of information. But by the time you graduate, you're going to be asked to do something that's entirely yours. And in the middle, we develop those skills and the confidence in you to be able to be an independent thinker and somebody who can propose your own thoughts. And it's everything that we do in every class, a dance class, a theater class, a physics class. It is basically requiring students to go beyond learning what's been presented to you and bringing more to it and being able to think about it in new and different ways and then express that. It's simply by that being an expectation, and by students being excited about that kind of learning and say, wow, I don't have to just memorize the history book or some outline of who did what when. I'm really going to be asked to think about the stories, because all of those events were stories and those people, and bring some new slant to that. And it's being forced or asked or invited to think about it in different ways. And that's my best answer.
Thank you.
I don't know if that's sufficient, and it's a little hard to bring to math, but to try to make it a more tangible, to see what that experience would be like. You can't just go take notes and feed the information back, and more is going to be expected of you than that.
Thank you. And we have time for the last question now. Anyone has any? If not, then thank you, Barbara, so much for joining us. I know it's been early in the morning. It's important. We have a whole day of different events today. We have earlier His Excellency Ambassador talking to us. Late afterwards, we'll have some more kind of discussions and workshops, but, you know, kind of to get the idea about what liberal arts education is and what American college essentially is and how to get there, I think is important for people who are thinking of applying there. So thank you very much.
And thank you. It was such a pleasure. It was really a pleasure to be there with you. I wish I could be there physically, but we are really excited for the promise that you all hold, and that you're there today speaks worlds about your own interest in your future. Can I leave you with an image? I don't know if you can see it. It's an arch. The admissions process to these schools is like an arch. What holds up an arch? Anybody know? The keystone right at the top. It's going to fall over unless this piece is in there. This piece is your educational background, your transcript, the courses you've taken, how well you've done in those classes. All of these stones that are the rest of the arch are you. They're your volunteer service. They're all the other things about you. It isn't going to hold up if you don't have that academic part that holds the arch up or holds it all together. But each of you is going to build your own arch. The two sides are entirely different for each and every one of you. So I hope that you can be excited about that process rather than anxious about it, because we are really eager to learn about each and every one of you if you apply. Good luck to you with all the choices available to you, and I hope I've given you something to think about today.
Thank you.